It's been almost a year since the Walt Disney Company decided to go toe-to-toe with the state of Florida, the governor, the legislature, and frankly, the Florida voters, over a certain piece of legislation that was passed. That didn't wind up going so well for the Walt Disney Company, as that same Florida state legislature decided to finally revisit some very special privileges that the Reedy Creek Improvement District had. That's the taxing body that was formed for the Walt Disney Company back in 1967. That has now been dissolved and replaced by a brand new district with a brand new set of rules and, frankly, a brand new board appointed by the state of Florida. Well, the Walt Disney Company apparently has decided to clap back, according to the Miami Herald, by hosting the largest LGBTQ conference in the world for the next 2 years. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valliant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video not yet subscribed, please take a moment, hit that little subscribe button and turn it from red to gray. Hit that notification bell, hit that like button, hit that share button, and do leave a comment before you head out the door today. This from Wednesday, March 22nd, the Miami Herald. After the DeSantis tussle, Disney World will host a major summit on gay rights. As by now, I'm sure many of you are aware, Disney is undergoing what they have been talking about for months: layoffs, hiring freezes. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be let go from the Walt Disney Company, about 7,000 according to initial reports from back in November and December when this was initially begun under the Bob Chapek regime and now being continued by Bob Iger. It's simply a matter of economic necessity. And yes, there are going to be some layoffs of some DEI folks, but that doesn't necessarily portend that Disney is suddenly going to abandon their political directives that they have been burying into place at the company for the last several years. Let's take a look at the actual upcoming stockholder report that is due in just the next few weeks. You can see here on one of the very first pages of the report that DEI is still a very big priority for the Walt Disney Company. And in that vein, they have offered an executive incubator program and creative talent development program designed to create a pipeline of next-generation creative executives from underrepresented backgrounds. And to be sure, we saw a lot of those folks in those Reimagine Tomorrow videos that were leaked almost a year ago now, telling us and the world that Disney was set to replace 50% of traditional characters with DEI-type representation characters. In and of itself, fine, go ahead and do that. But of course, if there's a political agenda behind it, that is generally what is going to rub people the wrong way. And certainly it has to this point. And it doesn't look like Disney is in any hurry to back down from that. And some of those executive incubator programs where they might fast track an individual into a new senior level management position. Why take Sonia Coleman for that matter? We covered this a few weeks ago when this was announced, when Paul Richardson, who had been at the Walt Disney Company as the head of human resources for over 15 years, would be stepping down and replaced by Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman was brought in initially to ESPN as someone who would increase the specter of diversity, equity, inclusion at the sports broadcaster. And now it seems the Walt Disney Company is expecting her to bring that across the entire spectrum of the Walt Disney enterprise. Now, who is the group that is putting on this, as the Miami Herald refers to it, the largest LGBTQ conference in the world, and more specifically, the largest LGBTQ political activism conference in the world? It's an organization called Out and Equal. And the goal of Out and Equal effectively seems to be to push certain agendas into corporate America, into Fortune 500 companies, and turn these companies into political activists. And from Out and Equal's own mission statement, they are the premier organization working exclusively on LGBTQ plus workplace equality. We partner with Fortune 1000 companies, government agencies, and organizations across industries and diverse missions to provide LGBTQ plus executive leadership development, comprehensive D&I, diversity and inclusion training, and consultation, and professional networking opportunities that build inclusive and welcoming work environments. Out and Equal works with executives, human resources, and diversity and inclusion professionals and LGBTQ plus employee resource group leaders to strengthen their role as internal change agents, bolstering their effectiveness and helping them incorporate and advance best practices in diversity and inclusion work. And some of the major sponsors for this organization, you can see even several government entities in there. You've got to wonder, what is a government entity doing spending taxpayer money to fund any nonprofit organization? But the list goes on and on, all the way from the brass level to the copper level to the bronze level, the silver and gold, the platinum level, and then the highest level of sponsorship available, that is the titanium level. And if you look right there, you've got the Walt Disney Company. Yep, the Walt Disney Company is one of a handful that has committed at the highest level, both financially and in terms of promising to be a political activist and to embody the goals of this organization, who in its own mission statement is fully dedicated to the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement. And in addition, as we mentioned before, the Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida will now be hosting their conference for 2023 and for 2024. And joining me today to discuss is a panel of usual suspects you'll see here on Valliant Renegade. And make sure that you guys check out WDW Pro's first ever live show this afternoon. We'll leave a link in the description below. This is Disney's latest public clapback, at least according to the Miami Herald, against Florida politics, Florida families, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And I put all those three together because, let's face it, DeSantis won re-election in Florida by a massive landslide. Massive landslide. The legislature is massively one-sided in Florida. The voters in that state have very clearly spoken. They're not.
And that wasn't the case. Let's say that too, Valliant. That wasn't the case even 20 years ago. Florida has moved from being
5 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Florida has moved from being purple at best, leaning blue, to being solidly red.
It used to be considered a swing state.
Yep. So here we are from the Miami Herald after the Ron DeSantis tussle, as they title this. Disney World will host a major summit on gay rights. And let me just read through this. The article's not terribly long, but let's just kind of take it for what it is, because I think this is interesting, right? Folks want to know, what's the future of Disney at this point? Is Disney really flipping a switch at this point and getting away from being engaged in hardcore politics? No. The Walt Disney Company will host a major conference promoting lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights in the workplace in Central Florida this September, gathering executives.
Pause right there for a minute, Valliant.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, what rights do lesbian, gay, bisexual, and people who are consider themselves transgender, what rights do they not have?
I don't know.
At this point, understand. There's no difference. There was maybe 10 years ago, you could say that they didn't have the same insurance rights. But at this point,
I legitimately don't understand the sentence.
Well, there's rights and there's privileges. And I think, honestly, from a political discussion perspective, I think too many people conflate the terms privilege with rights. Mm-hmm. They don't understand the difference. But let me continue on to get through this here. From the world's largest companies, a defiant display of the limits of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign against diversity training. Now, again, this is the Miami Herald, who is probably taking a lot of cues from the organization who is putting this on that Disney is hosting, right? And they're making this very much a political event here. Disney's decision to host the conference this fall comes amid a year-long dispute between the company and the Republican governor who signed a law that ended the decades of autonomy at the Disney resort. It was seen as a punishment over the company's opposition to Florida's parental rights and education bill, known widely as nonsense, because that's not what the bill said, which prohibits any discussion of any type of sexual discussion at all, which is what the bill did, prohibits any type of sexual discussion with young children through fourth grade. Disney has a long-standing relationship with Out and Equal. This is the organization that is putting on this event at the Walt Disney World Resort. The organization behind the event and is listed on the website as one of the most generous sponsors. The Florida resort, that's Disney, has committed to hosting the conference this year and next year, which will coincide with the presidential election campaign of 2024, which Ron DeSantis, of course, is widely expected to run. Disney is making a political statement right now against Governor Ron DeSantis, who is
it's a way to present themselves as being fully defiant.
Yeah,
that they've not been defeated, although they
Disney is taking a hardcore political stance against Ron DeSantis and the voters of Florida with this. I mean, that's and again, I'm not saying they're right, wrong, or one way. I'm just saying this is what the Miami Herald is presenting. This is the statement. This is the argument that the Miami Herald is making for this. Michael Chamberlain, Chief Marketing Officer for Out and Equal, confirmed to McClatchy that the conference would be held at the Walt Disney World Resort September 11th through 14th. Last year's summit was held in Vegas. Dozens of American companies, including Apple, McDonald's, Uber, Walmart, Hilton, Amazon, Boeing, Cracker Barrel, John Deere, are sponsoring the Out and Equal Workplace Summit, which over 5,000 people are expected to attend. Several agencies, including the U.S. State Department and the CIA, are listed as government partners and will have booths at the conference. The conference comes after DeSantis declared victory over Disney in February when he signed a law that gave him power to appoint a 5-member board overseeing the new, what is no longer called the Reedy Creek, which has been completely dissolved. This is the key part. Out and Equal says that its summit is, quote, the largest LGBTQ plus conference in the world, bringing executives, employee resource group leaders, human resource professionals, and experts in diversity, equity, and inclusion together to promote equality. Over more than 20 years, Summit has grown to become the preferred place to network and share strategies that create inclusive workplaces where everyone belongs and where every LGBTQ plus employees can be out and thrive, the website states. So what was the other thing that Governor DeSantis did? He also passed a law in Florida that prohibited companies, whether they're the Walt Disney Company or AutoZone down the street, doesn't matter. A business cannot mandate that their employees undergo some type of, political ideology training in the workplace.
Just bleep me out if you need to, but it's critical race theory, right?
Yes.
And the law is stated in a way to say that, stating that there is anything evil about a particular race, or that one race is superior to another, or that one race purports to say that it is superior to another.
Right. It's basically banning racism training or racist training or what some may or may not perceive. It kind of doesn't matter. The point is that they passed a law in Florida that says your employer cannot mandate as a requirement for you to be hired or as a requirement for you to maintain your employment that you go through some type of political training course. That's the kind of stuff you usually find in
So like Stephen, you can't be forced to sit through a training where they teach you about that you have some sort of ancestral sin that carries on into you, or that you, by virtue of how you were born, that you have less merit than someone else.
Right. Because it's wrong to teach religion in a Fortune 500 company.
So what I'm hearing here is Disney is deciding to go make political Manchurian candidates.
Yes.
I need another drink. This is so stupid because we've been raised through high school, every school, how to write a resume, how to get our skills set up, how to be prepared for the real world. And DeSantis has actually done this and saying, hey, how to know your taxes, how to know how to do a mortgage and stuff like that. He's passed real life skills. You can't go out and get a condo saying, well, I'm black or Asian.
We are obsessed in the corporate world and in particular types of government here in the United States, and especially with Disney, completely and utterly obsessed with individuals and families who have orientations other than what is the traditional norm. Why we are obsessed in this way, I don't know. And I don't have any negative feelings or dislike for anybody. But this seems to be disproportionate considering.
Well,
And-
look at what everything that Disney has put out. And Jonas, you have covered this numerous times on your channel lately. Everything woke about this or that, or all the titles of your shows. Look at all the stuff like the Proud Family, everything else they put out. Everything is very destructive towards the traditional nuclear family. Everything is very destructive towards fatherhood. Everything is very destructive towards celebrating men and fatherhood. I mean, all the dads are basically stupid idiots. They're lectured to by their teenage daughters. They're lectured to by their wives. There's just it's a constant attack and breaking down of the traditional family. Disney has been doing this now for years, and there's no signs of it letting up off the gas on doing this, because this is who is running the creative side of Disney now. The power. Remember, Bob Iger came back in, got rid of DMED, put all of the power back into the hands of the creatives. Those people on those Reimagine Tomorrow videos that we saw last year, all those folks that were, my not so secret this agenda that I'm putting into everything, and the 50% replacement of the characters, that's not stopping. Those people are not getting laid off, not by and large.
I mean, on that note, DMED, the firing of Kareem Daniels, they got rid of one of the most powerful black executives in the movie industry.
Mm-hmm. And they celebrated it.
And they did celebrate it. And now they've gotten rid of Victoria Alonso, one of the most powerful LGBTQ executives. I find the timing interesting from
Jonas,
Bob Iger,
and got rid of the head of their board, who is LGBTQ.
That's very true.
Arnold.
But she had actual credentials, so she doesn't count. But I want to point out the timing here. Victoria Alonso exits the company on Friday. This conference, a major LGBTQ conference, a few days later gets announced, so that no one has an argument against the company when it comes to the agenda.
But one thing to note, last year at Out and Equals conference in Las Vegas, now coming to Disney for the next 2 years, included multiple speakers who advocated for the rights of transgender youth and provided attendees with guidance on how to navigate anti-LGBTQ bills at the state level.
Think about the fact that we are now 1 year away from the Reimagine Tomorrow videos. And that HR video that came out after, specifically saying they wanted to get the word out to employees that they would know that if they wanted their child to have the Orwellian named opposite gender affirming care, that Disney would gladly help to pay for it. Wow.
We're going to have a much bigger discussion Sunday. And folks, by the time you see this video, make sure you check out WDW Pro, the first pro show live today as this video comes out. So you have one of two choices to make at this point. We can presume that Disney is using this as some sort of public cover to make the community of that political side of the spectrum feel at ease that Disney is still a friend to them and will always be. Or you can presume that Disney is actually engaged in this activity and that Disney is still very committed to this activity, at least for the foreseeable future. There's no real signs of Disney letting up off the gas pedal when it comes to pushing political agendas into much, if not nearly all of their big content that is coming out, even the small content. And you can go check out Jonas J. Campbell's YouTube channel to see exactly what I'm talking about. I would have to agree with the statement I recently heard that if there is going to be a major change in Hollywood back to the neutral center of just making good entertainment without actually pushing a very radical one side or the other political agenda, we're probably a ways away from seeing it still. And the Walt Disney Company is probably going to be the last holdout to make that change because they're the one that is most steeped in it right now. But I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think this means for the Walt Disney Company, if anything at all? Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, take care.